Afternoon. Welcome all to today's Social Care and Tackling Poverty Service Transformation Committee. Any apologies for absence, please?
From Alison Anthony, Cabinet Member, Chair.
I've had nil to date, Al. Any disclosures? Item 2, personal and prejudicial interests. None now. Item 3, the minutes from the 10th of June, page 1. Page 2. Any matters arising? Can we have a mover, please, and a seconder? Thank you. Oh, page 3. No, that's it. I am here. Just a note, Leslie's here with us today. She's been taken off the committee. We don't know why. She's coming back to us September officially. So to keep up with scope of the agenda items, Leslie's attending today as an observer. So welcome back, Les, September. We didn't think we were going to lose it. So Leslie's here as an observer today. She'll be back September. Yeah, Leslie's here. Hiya, Al.
Hiya, Mandy. Sorry I'm late.
That's fine. So now we move on to item 4, Swansea Council's volunteering policy development. It's for information, and I'll pass over to you. Anthony, I should remember that.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, committee members. For those of you who haven't come across me before, my name's Anthony Richards. I'm in the Tackling Poverty Service in Adult Social Services. So I'm here today to present the report. It's providing an update on the work that's happening around development of a Swansea Council volunteering policy. First of all, I'd like to say, I'm grateful for the commitment and support of the previous STC, the chair and the members. I'm really grateful that the STC has carried it forward into the work programme for this municipal year. So this is a for information report. It's to provide an update to members on the progress. What I've done with the report, being mindful that it is a refreshed committee, there are some new members here. I tried to provide information that will give a sufficient overview of the background. So it's about establishing, as the title says, a volunteering policy for Swansea Council. And what I'd like to do is just, kind of verbally kind of dig into that a little bit more to explain what that is and perhaps what that isn't. So this is about a policy that will specifically relate to volunteers that are hosted within Swansea Council services. So those are volunteers that are Swansea Council volunteers. They've been recruited and are supervised by council staff. The policy certainly this isn't anything new to Swansea Council. Swansea Council has had volunteers in its services for many, many years, and is certainly good practice happening across in different departments and services within the council. But this is about building on that good practice and setting a corporate level policy that will set consistent standards and good practice across the board. The draft I'm really keen to point out that the draft policy is attached as an appendix to the report, but I really want to emphasise that not only is this a draft policy at this moment in time, it's also a working document. I know that further changes will be made as we progress with the work that's happening at the moment. So I will be speaking about that a little bit. But just to say that, I fully expect there to be changes yet to happen to that before it's ready to come back, hopefully at a future date to move forward in terms of the process. So why is that? Why am I expecting changes to happen? Well, the policy refers to two key pieces of work that are happening right now, which is around developing a manager's toolkit. So that's resources, guidance, templates, processes, definitions that will be in place for managers and any staff that are supervising volunteers, perhaps around recruitment, all of those processes. And the other item is the volunteers handbook. So that's a handbook that will be made available to a volunteer when they are brought in to volunteer within a service. It will give them an overview of what to expect as a volunteer of Swansea Council. So these are being developed at the moment. They are quite challenging and quite complex pieces of work to work through, particularly the manager's toolkit. So I think one of the key things for me to report here is since I was here last, which was September last year, to provide an update. I imagine at the time I was talking about that we'd secured shared prosperity funding to help with this work, and I'm pleased to say that in April we appointed to a new post of volunteer and development officer sitting within my team. And that key member of staff now is working on a full-time basis on developing these toolkits and handbook that will sit behind the policy. But it's really important that they're fully developed before the policy is ready to go forward, because in the process of developing the manager's toolkit and volunteers handbook, we will be going back and reviewing what it says in the policy, and I fully expect to be making changes as we go through that process. The learning that we're still undertaking in terms of development work will inform the kind of finalising and tweaking of the policy document itself. So it's kind of there in draft, but it's very much a working document. Just to go into a little bit more detail, I suppose, then around the manager's toolkit is a particular focus at the moment. The report attempts to outline that to a degree. It is about, as I said, providing resources, guidance, templates, definitions for officers. It will cover such things as recruitment processes, what induction as a volunteer of Swansea Council would look like, what training would be required. Part of this work as well is looking at the various roles that volunteers may take within various council services and developing role profiles for those volunteers. So kind of working out templates of what training is required for what sorts of roles, particularly digging deeply into safeguarding to ensure that that not only is that the various levels of safeguarding training is identified as relevant for a particular volunteering role, but access to that training is also available to the volunteers as well. So we're working closely with the safeguarding team, also the corporate training team in terms of mandatory training. So things like if a volunteer perhaps has access to data that we hold to a various degree, what training around perhaps data protection is required around there, or basic things like manual handling and that sort of thing. Through to supervision, so officers have the right tools available to them in terms of good practice supervision for volunteers and consistent experiences of that supervision across the authority, through to resolving issues, complaints, and moving on from volunteering as well. So all of these processes are being kind of developed at the moment in terms of guidance documents, templates, and also there was another word I mentioned, which is around kind of definitions as well. So making sure that when we're using language around volunteering within Swansea Council, that we're using not only consistent language, but we have a consistent understanding of what volunteering is and what volunteering isn't. In the meantime, we have also established an internal Swansea Council Volunteers Managers Forum. So any manager or council officer that is currently supervising volunteers has the ability to join that group, share good practice, and be part of this work, informing the toolkits that we are developing currently, because it's really important that those toolkits are going to be be able to use in practice. So we want to, kind of identify in the journey if officers are saying, well, that's going to cause a problem, or that's different from what we're doing now. We are looking to kind of make it so that it can be rolled out and used, and not necessarily going to create barriers to the good work that's already happening. We also have another group, a smaller group, a steering group established with HR colleagues in the council and SCVS that we're working alongside with really closely in terms of developing this piece of work. And in other contexts, we're also part of a wider regional piece of work with the West Glamorgan Regional Partnership, who have developed a regional level strategy for volunteering. And this piece of work that we're doing as one of the Swansea Council as a member organisation of the regional partnership. This is very much part of our commitment to being part of that work and delivering on that. So I think that more or less covers the report, and I think I've given a bit more detail there verbally. But if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to attempt to answer.
Thank you, Anthony. Are there any questions or any observations for Anthony, please? Alison, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I need to thank Anthony and all the staff and all the work that has gone into this, and just to sort of reiterate what he said, really, I suppose, is that it is a working document. It's a live document sort of thing, and it's also a large piece of work, so it will need to come back again later on, I think, in the year, to cabinet and everything, and just, I think that we're trying to get our own house in order, and we'll start internally. I think what we do foresee is perhaps it'll be quite complicated when we go to schools, so I think there's going to be a big piece of work in education needed. If you think of all the volunteers that sometimes just help do little things in the school and everything. So that's why we just wanted to say it is a working document, and it will need your input, and it will need to come back. So thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, Al. Anyone else?
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thanks, Anthony. I did read the document. Sound idea to have both a management toolkit and a volunteer sort of user guide. Is quite comprehensive. Yeah, thanks for doing that. Just one thought that I had really in looking at the links. For example, let's take the complaints policy as an example. If you click on that link, I think it goes directly to the corporate complaints policy, which is on the website anyway. I was just wondering whether that could be, I mean, that's a fairly long document, whether that could be simplified and sort of tailored for volunteers only, rather than to be rather general. Just a thought that you might like to include. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Alex, do you want to come back in?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. That's a great question. Yeah, we are part of the work that we're doing with the smaller steering group, where we're working with colleagues in HR and colleagues in SCBS, is looking at that the context of developing this policy and how it fits and sits with wider corporate policy that we have, and like the complaints procedure is policy is is part of that context. And absolutely, we would very much see dealing with that type of issue being within the scope of that policy, but how we lay that out and communicate that then within perhaps the volunteers handbook and the toolkit for the managers would absolutely I'd hope to see some simplified narrative around that, rather than presenting necessarily the whole policy around that, which could be quite a lot to take in.
Thank you both. Anyone else?
Patience.
Patience?
Thank you, Chair. Just to echo my thanks to the team for quite a comprehensive job on the draft. I am particularly interested, you know, in seeing the embedding of the 5 ways of working of the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, and especially around, you know, more collaborations with diverse community groups for volunteering recruitment and retention and so on. So very well done to the team. My question is a more general one, really, because I remember coming out of COVID in meetings with WCVA, concerns were raised about how the number of volunteers had drastically dropped, you know, over the COVID period. And I'm just wondering, you know, has there been any significant change in the numbers of volunteers volunteering with the council? Thank you.
Thank you, Patience. Anthony?
Again, you know, great questions. Thank you, Councillor, and some, you know, some observations that are really relevant there. I'll pick up on the kind of numbers first. From I think generally speaking, you know, SCVS have reported similar. You know, they have noticed a kind of drop in volunteer numbers. I could only speculate as to reasons around that. Since COVID, one speculation may be that perhaps, you know, older volunteers have been less able or have concerns about kind of re-engaging post-COVID, but I am just, you know, guessing there. The looking further ahead, so as was said earlier, this is very much, as Councillor Anthony said, this piece of work initially is very much around getting our own house in order within Swansea Council in terms of setting that policy. The policy doesn't and won't cover attracting diverse ranges of volunteers. That's not what the policy is about. But once the policy is in place, I would like you know, my focus then, or how I would see the piece of work developing beyond that, would be to develop a volunteering strategy for Swansea Council then that would look at how we attract diverse ranges of volunteers, and indeed kind of ask and answer those questions in terms of how Swansea Council can play its role in supporting volunteering in a wider sense within Swansea. So as I said right at the start, the policy is about volunteers that are hosted within council services. So this policy won't cover, for example, volunteers of groups like Friends of Parks. You know, they are their own constituted groups. So in time, I'd like to. This is the logical first solid step to take in terms of our own in-house approach to volunteering, but then we can build on that and look at how we might attract. Yeah, you know, that would be one part of a strategy. Would be looking at diversifying volunteers. What is our role in supporting volunteering opportunities in other places? And how we're working with voluntary groups in general, I think, is a place where this piece of work could go in the future. Hopefully that answered your question. Oh, I didn't answer the question about the numbers. I'm sorry. Yeah. So as I said, we haven't from the Volunteer Managers Forum had feedback that we're experiencing lower numbers, but part of the work that we're doing around the toolkit is looking to establish ways that we are able to collect baseline data around volunteers within Swansea Council. So we haven't got a very robust way of doing that currently, but that's one of the little pieces of the jigsaw that we're looking to put in place with the policy, is how we set consistent ways of collecting data around the volunteers that we have and how those are collated and can in future be reported at a corporate level.
Thank you. I think for me, again, a lot of work done. Obviously, it's new to us, or most of us around the table. You know, for me, volunteering is confidence builder. It attracts people from all different avenues of life. And, you know, we need to be sensitive when it comes to recruitment, which I believe we are. when I first read it, we'll be honest, I was like, okay, few negatives, but you've come along today, you've alleviated those negatives. And as you say, it's a live document. I think the only thing for me is, as has been said, the handbook needs to be as simple but as professional, so that people don't open it up and think, whoops, what's this about? They don't want the corporate stance. They want the simple ABC, the basics, so they can pick it up, understand, and they can feedback and they can use it as a handbook. So for me, it's very much about working with these people who are going to come and volunteer for us, and those who are already volunteering for us, to open the tool, or to open the handbook and just say, thanks, this means a lot to me. Not open it up, shut it and think it's a corporate stance. So it's got to be very, very sensitive, quite simplistic, but it has to have the corporate stance, so we understand that. But overall, thank you. We will invite you back again. I'm sure Anthony will get, Councillor Anthony will give us guidance on that. Too many Anthony's here today. Know where I am, Al. So thank you, and we appreciate the team, that the work that your team have done to date, and we hope to see Tammy, is it? Yeah, we hope to see her with you next time. She'll be more than welcomed. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to respond to that if I can. You absolutely pick up your points on the handbook. You know, the language, the pitch, the level of detail. So important to get right. You know, just you know, I want to assure you that we're very, very mindful of that and totally appreciate the value of volunteers. You know, is really important to us. The value that volunteers bring to the organisation, and the value that we can provide to the volunteers, you know, from those experiences. So I hope I give you confidence that the piece of work is in good hands, but really appreciate your input and guidance on this. It's really, really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you use the mics in the room? I can't hear anything online.
Sorry, Louise. We're moving on to item 5. It's not with Helen, no. It's with, sorry,
Lucy.
it's with Lucy. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you everyone for inviting me along today. As you say, I'm here to present a paper on the assistive technology and promoting independence work of adult services. The report that I've provided is for information, and the intention really is to offer you a bit of a background of the assistive technology offer in adult services in Swansea, to provide you with a bit of information about our priority work that's taken place over the last 18 months, the benefits of that work, and also our planned activity for future months as well, for your feedback. So I won't go through the paper in detail. I'm sure you've all had a chance to read through, but just to give a bit of context for assistive technology, as suggested, this is one of our key elements of promoting independence for adults in Swansea. The assistive technology strategy, therefore, does sit front and centre in our transformation programme for adult services. It supports a number of our transformation objectives, obviously promoting independence is at the forefront, really to enable people to live independently for longer within their own home and communities. But it also encompasses interventions which enhance other elements of our priority work, such as early help, and assistive technology can also offer viable routes for people to step down for managed care interventions where appropriate. So it really does have a range of applicable kind of areas in our service. So when we talk about assistive technology, to give colleagues a bit of an overview, really you can divide it into 3 main types for ease. So across adult services, we offer enabling assistive technology, responsive technology, and also predictive technology. And to give you an idea of what some of those devices may entail, enabling solutions can be quite low level, independent living devices, perhaps digital or smart technology in people's homes, as well as more complex aids such as that compensate for functional or cognitive decline or impairment. We also have responsive tech, so that may be an alert or an alarm which signals when something has happened, or to let someone else know about the issue and to raise the alarm. We also use technology which can aid, which we described as predictive solutions, which can provide trend data and information which can really help inform interventions, but also prevent escalation into crisis for some of our service users. So to give you an idea of some of those, the types of devices across all of those areas can be things such as community alarms, which I'm sure you've all heard of, also known as lifelines, falls detectors and sensors, bed and chair sensors, movement sensors, property exit sensors, health monitors, the list goes on. So we do have a wide range in our offer already in adult services. To give you an idea of how people can access such technology, our assistive technology aids can be part of a assessed need, so they can form part of an assessment and they can be prescribed by our integrated health and social care teams. That's known as telecare or telehealth in our world. Assistive tech can also be used by prescribers to help inform an assessment. So we have aids such as Just Checking, which can be used to monitor a person's daily living activities in their own home. And they can really offer quite a different and detailed insight into someone's routines and activities and can help inform a more robust assessment. Also, on top of that, we also provide assistive technology in the form of community alarms and other technology as well, which is completely available to anyone at any time in their life. They can apply for a community alarm completely independent of an assessment. They don't need to be known to adult services, but they can also reach out for advice and assistance on such technology, and they can purchase that technology directly themselves. So across all of assistive technology, the overarching purpose is to really help improve the quality of life for an individual, maximising their independence, providing them opportunity to stay at home and to increase confidence. The technology can also support with the well-being of carers, offering some level of assurance, comfort that their loved ones are safe in their own home as well. So moving on to our activity within the assistive technology service. In 2022, we did a review of the service itself and the community alarms offer. And we established at that point some medium-term strategic objectives. So the vision of the service was to identify, educate, signpost and provide new and innovative technology solutions for the public, current and potential service users, and also via our internal teams. We knew there was a real opportunity to grow the service to support our objectives. So our immediate work really focused around better integration of the assistive technology offer into a general business as usual, I suppose, in terms of informing assessment and care management. We also needed to establish a service that was fit for the future, so ready for the future. We wanted a service which was driven by performance and outcomes for individuals. And we also wanted to grow our preventative offer in assistive tech. So we have made good progress against those objectives over the last 18 months. At the forefront of that really was to just develop our performance framework so we better understood how we were doing with the work that we were actually providing already, so that we can understand our range of clients, the type of referrals and the type of demand we were getting, which teams were using us, which weren't, how many people were coming to us independent of having contact with adult services and so on. And also the outcomes of those interventions, most importantly, so that we could really understand how we could target our, limited resources to the right places. So we have made some improvement in terms of increasing the use of assistive technology amongst our wider social care teams. So historically, the use of assistive technology has been really largely directed by our integrated therapy teams. As you might understand, that's, it's their bread and butter. So what we wanted to do was really try and broaden that out to a wider cohort of colleagues. So we have done some targeted work with our common access point in adult services, working with those colleagues sitting within the common access point, being able to speak to people directly. We've also done some targeted work with assessment and review functions. As previously described, there's a great scope to actually use technology to better inform the assessment and reviews. So moving on to that point, the use of just checking has formed a significant part of this demand. So just checking, as I touched on very briefly, is a device or series of sensors that can be placed in someone's home over normally a 2-week period, and it really just monitors activity, movement and behaviours of that individual when they're living alone at home. So it offers quite a unique insight into that person's life, and it really aids conversations with people and their loved ones about what the next steps might be. So it really is practical in terms of our work as social work practitioners, in terms of informing our assessment process. It offers a very robust element to that. But it also assists with sometimes more challenging conversations with individuals and their loved ones. And it uses evidence base for discussion and agreement with those individuals as well. So the use of just checking has evidenced a reduction in prescription of managed care. It is small steps because, you know, we haven't broadened it out to be a necessary step of all assessment, and we wouldn't suggest that is appropriate in all cases. But it has actually enabled people to remain in their own homes for longer by using that extra information. So how we understand that, and part of our information gathering, is that when someone accesses the service, they would already have had a conversation with the individual and their families, and there might already be a pathway that that person's on or a request that's come through. So we'd use that as our baseline to compare against. And in some cases, that might be residential care placement, might seem like an option, or it might be a package of domiciliary care at a certain amount of hours per week. And then we look at what actually followed the assessment. So what was the final service that was offered, and then compare that with the before and after. So we have seen some cost avoidance, but more importantly, I suppose, it's also made sure that we're reserving our resources for everyone, and we are maintaining our capacity as far as we can as well within the service. So in combination with the positive practice of just checking, we've also taken a really proactive approach in promoting the provision of telecare with social work teams. So that's the wider telecare offer. So those devices that can be available to anyone in their own homes as part of an assessment. So those fall sensors, exit door sensors, heat sensors, all of those devices that are available and can really enable someone to remain within their own home for longer and offer some reassurance. They've been promoted, and we have seen an increase across the board in terms of referrals to telecare, which is really positive. And we have had to, as mentioned before, really move with the times as well. So a lot of our assistive technology relies on a base unit, which has historically, as you'd expect, been analog. So we have had to move with the digital upgrade that is being rolled out across Wales, across the UK. So we've had to transition from analog to digital platforms. As you can imagine, that's been a big part of our work over the last 18 months. As it stands, as of last month, I should say 45%, and that's around 1,100 base units have been upgraded to smart devices, and we're on track to complete all upgrades in line with the current 2025 switchover deadline. So in terms of our next steps for assistive technology in Swansea, we really want to move our focus onto the preventative offer and explore where that can take us as a service. So increasing our activity in that area will aim to engage with people earlier, providing advice and information, as well as practical guidance and access to the range of assistive tech that's available to anyone at any point. So we're working with a range of community-based organisations and services. Clearly, front and centre of that would be our local area coordinators, but also we're working with Swansea Council for Voluntary Services, linking with roles such as social prescribers, community wellbeing officers, and also digital volunteers as well, to really have a wraparound offer for the assistive tech equipment. We're also going to launch in September, not next month, our assistive technology smart home suite. So that's placed within our regional equipment store. It's part of our wider assessment centre, and it's really to demonstrate how these equipment or pieces of equipment can work in a home environment. So it's set up like a home, bedroom, kitchen, bathroom, and we have all of the tech set up so that people can come in there. So we can use it for our internal staff as part of our training, but also it would be open to the public if they wanted to come in and actually have a bit of a try before you buy, see how it works in their own home. And I think that really kind of brings the technology to life and actually kind of really clearly shows how it can be used and the benefit it can bring. So that's our plan for going forward, and it's going to be launched in September. And one of the things that we would like to do is that we wanted to put that on your radar, and obviously we would be looking for as much support as possible to promote that. So in addition to those key bits of activity, we will be building further on our ongoing promotion of our core offer of telecare and telehealth in terms of enhancing our offer in adult services and really promoting independence. And again, we will continue to develop our communications internally and externally to really make sure that we are reaching out to people and they understand what's available to them. And also, like I say, crucially as well, that there shouldn't be any barrier to accessing this equipment. Some of it can be relatively inexpensive and easily accessible, but also as part of our offer, as part of an assessment, making sure that our practitioners are aware of all of the devices that are out there as part of an assessed need are also readily available to our clients. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lucy. Right, any questions, observations for?
Do you mind if I come in? Sorry, Chair. Just
yes, come on, Lou.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, just thank you very much to Lucy and to Helen for the report. It would be really useful to get the committee's views really on is this are they interested in this area of work? Are we looking at the right things? Are there any other areas of technology that they think that they may know of that we should be exploring? How can we kind of continue to promote this more widely? Perhaps it might be a good idea if the committee could visit the suite when it's launched in September, that will be really good to kind of keep that going and can see how it's going. Yeah, so just it's really interesting how we can use technology to really promote people's independence, and it's such a a growth area really, and provide peace of mind for people themselves and their families as well, in terms of giving that extra sort of support while people are in their own homes. So yeah, it'd be really great to hear what the committee think.
Thank you, Louise. Any questions?
Yes, yeah, if I can.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
Not so much a question really. Thank you, Lucy, for that report. I was just thinking in terms of the sensors that are there. Are they connected to via Wi-Fi to a central body? So something goes wrong. I think if somebody fell over or fell out of bed or whatever, I mean, and if you're living alone, no one would have known unless that was. I asked that because I can say that I'm fitted with a defibrillator. Yeah. And if I'm not behaving myself, it soon lets me know, and others know that I've done something wrong. I was just wondering, is that a part of the technology?
Exactly.
Thank you,
that.
Chair.
Yeah, thank you for the question. No, exactly that. So all of our items have a base unit, exactly as you described. So they, whether you just have but if you might just have a lifeline, which is our usual alarm, but it could be connected to health monitoring devices. It could be connected to the force sensor, door sensors, any number of different sensors around the home. So either if it's we have two types, so it can be connected to a base unit which has 24-hour monitoring via a central call centre in Carmarthen, which is so that's our response centre. They'll have a list of your next of kin, your key contacts, also obviously if necessary medical emergency or police and so on. We also offer the service, it's slightly different, same principle, but it's called Care Assist, which is connected to your designated carer or person. So the call goes directly to them. It doesn't go via the call centre, but exactly that principle. The majority of the offer that we have is centres around that. So you do have, you have that 24-hour monitoring through the route that you prefer.
Thank you. Yeah. Harry? Myra, do you want to come in then?
Yeah.
Harry first, and then we'll have Myra.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I thought it was really interesting, and really found the paper really interesting to see all the different aspects that are involved. And I was just wondering, in terms of, you mentioned the performance frameworks, I was just wondering, you know, what kind are we sort of holistically capturing all the benefits of this? Because I can imagine the benefits to a lot of just taking the Just Check-in scheme, for instance. I imagine there's quite a lot of benefits across the piece, not just, you know, individual outcomes for individuals, but also for families. You reference cost avoidance as well, and I think personally, I think it's really important that we try and capture the cost avoidance stuff, because I know it doesn't mean much to finance in terms of numbers on a ledger, but from a local authority perspective, I think it's really important that we do try and capture that somewhere, because ultimately, if we weren't doing these things, it would be costing us a lot more. And we know the challenges that we're all facing economically. And we've got a different government now, but who knows how that's going to play out. So, you know, we're still likely to look at some form possibly of austerity moving forward. I don't know. So just wondering, you know, I'm assuming that we are, but you know, what that looks like, and the kind of are we capturing those holistic benefits as well, not just, you know, the individual outcomes.
Thank you for that question. Yep, you're quite right. We are starting to explore that. So cost avoidance is quite a tricky one to get a handle on, as I'm sure you can appreciate. So I kind of will say these figures with some kind of, you know, a lot of caveats, to say, actually, around them, because cost avoidance isn't real money in the pocket, really. But you're quite right to call it out. There are a multitude of benefits to equipment such as Just Checking for our wider system. And so, you know, for example, we've had 59 installations over the last year of Just Checking kits. So they've aided 59 assessments, which is relatively small compared to the total number of assessments we do in adult services, but we have a very small team. But you know, just from those 59 assessments alone, we have estimated the cost avoidance at around £422,000. So on average, I think I mentioned in the paper that when you look at our entire time of having Just Checking in place, and since having a designated assistive tech officer to actually manage those installations, on average, with every assessment, we're looking at cost avoidance of around £5,500. So, you know, it really does reap rewards. And of course, that means it's more than just the bottom line. It does mean as well that we are making sure that we're maintaining our services for those most in need in a timely way. So, you know, it is much more than that. I think in terms of wider outcomes across the board, we know that's an area of the service we want to explore further as well, because I think it, you know, Just Checking in some ways is kind of a little bit more straightforward than others, because there's almost a kind of pathway, as I mentioned when I was describing the paper, or already a trajectory that person might be on, that we can benchmark against. But really, those longer term benefits, I suppose, are what we'd like to capture better, and understanding about you know, really the true preventative nature of it. You know, can we really maintain that person at home for longer if we had a better understanding of our people coming back through to our front door, for example, the outcomes, like you touched on as well, the outcomes and the meaning of something like this for carers and family and loved ones around the individual as well. Really, those kind of that detail isn't there yet, and that cuts across all of telecare and our assistive tech solutions. So that's something that we are exploring as a service and want to really put in place as a kind of just as a standard that we want to seek and get those outcomes on a more regular basis. We have done a number of case studies though, which, you know, I'd be happy to share with the committee if you'd be interested, which really I think goes into those outcomes and the wealth of outcomes in a bit more detail, as case studies often do. So, you know, that is a positive. But yeah, for certain, with Just Checking, just from the relatively small activity that we've been able to support in service, the benefits appear to be there for all to see. So it's a really positive step, I think.
Mair?
Very good report, I got to say this, but there's a part of it raising awareness of the services across adult services, but also extremely with residents and communities will be established in this. Now, I have suggested to a few families, like if you need, mum's coming out of hospital, she needs this care. Oh, no, they'll put her in a home. No, trying to put this awareness across to families. It's quite hard to explain what is available, and trying to explain to, well, I'm elderly, so over 60, but trying to explain to the 75 group and up about technology and what's available, like hearing impaired stuff. My late husband was hearing impaired, I had the doorbell, the fire alarm, we had the lot fitted. He didn't want it because he thought, nosy, 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 nosy. No, 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 you having it whether you like it or not. But most families within communities are so tightly knitted together, and trying to tell them, look, don't be afraid, the door's open, go in there, have a chat, and then you'll have the things you need for mum and dad. But it's getting, how to say, raising the awareness of what's available to communities in the Swansea area. There's very little there, which I would like to see put out into communities, fed back into communities, so younger people will understand the needs of older people and what's available for them. That's it.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think I saw the assistive technology suite 2 weeks ago, and it is fabulous. But there's something we need to do there around open house, self-referral, supporting people to get there as well. I think you hit the nail on the head, because the younger generation use assistive tech not for certain things and don't see the application of it to help the older generation, and even just things like Alexa. I know people have varied views about that, but yeah, but you can ask it all sorts of things. Yeah, medication reminders. But I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's something for us that we are launching the suite in September. It's how we make that accessible to people to come and have a play with the kit, because what's the word? And it is a very homely setting, so that people will see that the sensors are not intrusive. Obviously, they are lifestyle monitors. They are lifestyle monitors, but some of the case studies around relatives' worry and concern about an elderly member of the family who's wandering at night in particular. And we've got case studies with the Just Checking kit where it appears that somebody's wandering at night, but actually they're getting up for a reason, and it's either to do with a cat or feed, or there'll be a reason for it, and it becomes evidence, and the family have a huge sense of security. It becomes a risk that's manageable. Not in every case, but it does. And I think those are the benefits that are going to be really hard to quantify around people's ability to support an elderly family member for longer at home before recourse to care. But I think I'm going on about it a little bit now because I think it's fabulous, but you're absolutely right about how do we make the suite known, accessible, and how do we get people there to see it? I just wanted to mention, I think Helen hit the nail on the head. There's so much, I think, until you see it. And I was, when I saw it and saw the different ways the equipment could be used, that is really how we're going to hit home with it, I think. So any opportunity like that would be more than welcomed. I think that would be brilliant. But that's also the intention with, it's not a silver bullet. Of course, we know there's a lot more work to do, but it's really also our intention with linking with digital volunteers, I suppose, to bridge that gap as well. So there might be some concerns about accessibility of the equipment, and that will help, I hope, as well, to actually enable people to really practically be able to apply it in their own homes and have the support to do so. But also linking with social prescribers, community groups, local area coordination to maybe make those links a bit stronger.
Angela?
Hi there. Yes, I think linking with the LACs as well actually would be good, and for us all to come and see the technology suite and the call centre so that then we can speak highly of it ourselves actually, and be, you know, great advocates for it as well, to bring the trust into the community, because I think it's a huge benefit for a family to provide that peace of mind if those family members can't be with those people as well. But I think it is a trust issue, particularly for a certain generation as well. And it's just building on that trust. And I guess the more people that have seen it, that can talk highly of it, you know, that know that it's there for the interest of them, actually would be an advantage. Thank you.
Hi, Chair. Just a final thought, if I can. Am I taking somebody's place though? Just on the question of availability, I mean, how portable is this? I mean, is it something that could be taken into, for example, community centres where you do get a lot of elderly people? Would that be an option? I don't know how portable this would be to take around the various centres.
I would have thought there's definitely something we can do in terms of the context. That the thing about the suite is it's set up like a home, so it's set up with the bed sensors are in a bed. So yes, I would have thought there's definitely something we can do around it.
There'll certainly be elements of the offer that we can take where we need to, perhaps offer videos, you know, as well. You know, there'll be ways and means, won't there, to actually kind of get the message out there. So yeah, we can explore. I think that's a really, you know, it makes perfect sense now you've said it, but that would be a really positive thing to do. So I can speak to the service and see what we can pull together. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
I think for me, it is a positive. I looked after my husband for 7 years. He passed away last year. Fortunately, I was there. But for us, this would have meant a lot, because my sister, my son, myself, 2 friends and 2 neighbours were back and forth constantly. And I think for him as well, just to know that at the end of a call, there was somebody there. But what interests me, it's not only about our elderly community, it's about people with learning needs who have got carers 24/7, who've got no respite, no escapism at all. So for those families as well, it's going to be a massive positive. And I think for people living, you know, with really exhaustive mental health issues and these learning difficulties that a lot of families still don't understand, that confidence for that individual as well. But it will mean a lot for carers. And I can say that because I would have welcomed this last year. But it's, I think for me, the question is, as Myra touched upon, little things mean a lot to a lot of people out there. People don't want to go into care. You know, people want to stay in their own homes where they feel safe, they feel loved. So it's a massive for us as a local authority. And a lot of work has been put into it. But it is about how do we entice just a small minority to reach out to the majority. So very sensitive, very emotional, because, you know, some people are like, oh, don't talk, I don't want to go. And that's the attitude. They don't believe there's anything else for them. And, you know, even for me, I'm over 60, well over 60 as well, Myra. Yeah. But, you know, it's like, yeah, still keeping it going. But it's like, I think, you know, speaking for myself and loads of people who are in my position, a lifeline to me is a lot, because I go up the garden, I'm in the house all day on my own, I lock that front door, I lock that side gate, nobody knows. So for a lot of people, it is a lifeline, and it's a way of building confidence, just to say there is a little person on the end of the phone, or my son is there, or wherever it might be, a neighbour. And it is promoting services that we should have been delivering a long time ago. So I really welcome this. And thank you for the work you've done, because I understand personally what it means. So it's massive, massive, massive. And if it is only put in the understanding just to have a basic lifeline, which, you know, a lot of people would say, oh yeah, that's my lifeline, it's fine. But then little things, you know, and we advance and we do give people the opportunity. And I welcome, what's it called? The home Oh, the sweet. The sweet. No, but it's good because when people see, they start to understand, because any assessor goes out and it's straight away, oh, it's a uniform, it's healthcare. Whereas I think if people got a chance to explore and understand, they might say, yeah, put my name on a list, please. And that's what we need. Yeah. 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 But I don't think it's only for older residents. I think it's for people, for families who live in extreme, trauma, because they cannot go out unless there's somebody sitting with a son, a daughter, a loved family member. And I know a family, she's gone away for 3 days to Malaga with her husband, and both her daughters are home looking after her son. And this is the first time she's been away for 6 years. He's 27. But for this would have been massive. So I'll be promoting it and I will be coming to your suites. So be prepared. Thank you. But thank you. You're more than welcome. And it is a good report. And it's a massive, massive positive, for the residents, for the teams, and definitely for the council. So thank you.
Sorry, we can't hear anything online again. I don't know if there's any. Thank you.
It's not like you can't hear me normally, Lou. Right, work plan.
You didn't quite carry all the way to Dunvant today. So.
Right, so 16th of September, tackling poverty strategy. Amy Hawkins. Sorry, Amy, we'll see you again. Poverty Truth Commission and Digital Inclusion, which is Amy and Lee.
Yeah, I think we should be fine on those. Sorry, I should start more positively. Tackling poverty strategy, no problem. The Poverty Truth Commission, actually, I might ask Anthony if he has something to say on this, but I'm not sure if the reports come out. We were pending the sort of final report, so just depending, because it's independently facilitated, whilst we financially support and encourage and support the work of the team. We don't know yet whether that report, you're shaking your head, so it's not out yet, is it? No. So but timing wise, so we're just that one, we could move to a future meeting potentially, but we'll let you know closer to the deadline date if that's right. And the digital inclusion is fine.
So the next meeting is on the 16th of September. The work plan's there for you all to observe. And thank you all who's attended, because it's been a really interesting afternoon. And we will invite you back. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Meeting closed.